The Jumper TX16S, it's not an easy radio to get used to. It's not like the others. It's essentially a computer with software running called OpenTx. If you want to learn how to use it, the best thing is just to read about OpenTx. But I'll just show you a couple of things here that I've learned. Once you have set up a model, which you can do with the wizard, you can go into the model settings by holding down the model key. When it does that, you'll have this bar up at the top with a lot of different settings. And one of the ones I like to explore is these three that look like servos. So this one that looks like a servo on the top essentially is all the inputs, the physical inputs, mapped out and given names. So you see here on the left, the top one, for example, is aileron. So for aileron, if you hold the edit key, you can go in and you can edit it, or you can start a new one. And it's just creating the inputs. It doesn't matter where they're mapped to on the receiver. This just creates the inputs. So the first one is going to be called aileron, and you can rename it there by holding it and changing it. The source is going to be the aileron stick, but it could be anything. It could be one of the sticks, it could be one of the pots, it could be a trim, it could be a switch. You're just giving names to the different inputs that you're going to use. It's the electronic naming of whatever it is that's on here. And this one, it was a stick, and there's the rudder stick, but we don't want it to be the rudder stick. We want it to be the aileron stick. So we're going to hold down stick, and then we're going to scroll until we get aileron. And that is what the first part is. Now I'm just going to hit the return key, and we're going to go back out, and that's the left side of that little servo. The mixer part is next, but I just want to show you one more thing on the inputs before we go. I wanted to change the exponential, and so what I did was, on this one, if you hold down this, just one click on any of these inputs, and you scroll down, it will add a line. And in that added line, you can change things. You can change the exponential. You can change what activates the exponential. So for example, if I long press on this one and I edit it, here's aileron. It still uses the aileron stick. 100% weight. Expo, you could change that. It has different things you can put in. You could put in a curve, and here it is just 20%. Now I could change that. I could make it 30%, for example, and you'll see the curve is changing. And then I could go down and I could make that switch activated by selecting a different switch. So for example, when SA is in the up position, that will give you this curve. I could change that, and I could make it when it's in the middle position, it gives you that curve. I could change it and make it when it's in the down position, it'll give you that curve. It's one of the ways that you can give yourself dual rates. So I'll leave it there for now. I'm going to return out of it, and I really don't want that one. You can see I already have one, so I'm just going to long press on it and delete it. There you go. Now we're going to go to the next one. This is the mix. This actually says which input goes to which channel on the receiver. So you know, you have your receiver and it's got names on some of them, but other ones it just has numbers. But essentially it's all the same. It's position 1, position 2, etc. So this says that on channel 1 we are going to enter an input for the aileron. On channel 2 for the that we usually assign to elevator, we're going to use to the elevator. But here's something that you don't see on regular radios because it's done differently, is what if you want to add a separate mix to channel 2? What if you want 2 sticks to control channel 2 and do different things with it? Well, in this case, this is a motorized glider. And what I wanted was that when I put the throttle up, I get a little bit of negative elevator so that it doesn't climb so hard. So what I did was I did a press on that one, and I rolled the control roller here, enter key to the right, and it added a channel. Now I'm going to take away that channel now because I already have one that I created, and we'll just edit it. So I'm just going to return out of that mode. We're just going to go down to the one that I added. You see the little plus key? It's added to channel 2. It's an extra input for that slot on the receiver. I'm going to long press it, and I'll edit it so I can show it to you. I called it TR comp. You can change that. That's just a name you put in, and it stands for throttle compensation. And for the source, I chose the throttle because I want the throttle to have, when I change it, to also change the elevator. I could have made it anything, rudder, elevator, anything, but I wanted it to be throttle. So I wanted about 50% weight. That's how much input. I made a custom curve for it. I'll show you that in a moment. And it's always on. I didn't put it on a switch. So the custom curve we have is just called the throttle curve. And what it does is when I put up the elevator, you see the little bars down here? It puts in negative 10% throttle. It does that because when the throttle is up, I want a little bit of down elevator so that the model doesn't climb straight up. Here's just showing the change it'll make on channel 2. So elevator, negative 10%. Isn't that awesome? Just for throttle, and that's how you do it. I'm going to back out with the return key, and now I'm going to scroll over to the output section. The output section just shows how much throw is going to be in the servo. It doesn't really do much else. And you can give it a name here. Channel 1 is going to be the rudder, even though normally it's aileron, but I'm going to use my right-sided stick to do it because it has no ailerons on this glider. It's has dihedral in it, and it just uses the tail. So how did I make that curve? Remember it said use the curve, so we're going to go over to that curve. And here's the curve. It's curve 2. I called it throttle. If you had not put a name in there, it would just say curve 2 back in that other section. But here it is. So let's scroll down to it using our scroll wheel. And there it is, that little baby curve. How did we get that? Long press. And I named it throttle because it's a throttle interference curve. It's coming from the throttle. And it has 5 points on it, but you can change the number of points if you want a really fancy curve. I didn't need a really fancy curve, so it just have 5 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the curve. Smooth the curve? Yeah, I didn't want it just like a herky-jerky curve. It'll smooth it out for you. How did I make the curve? Well, here's point number 1, and you can edit it. And how much throttle did I want? How much input did I want to the elevator channel when throttle was 0? None. When the elevator's down, when the throttle is down, the elevator is just what it is. Then I entered, scrolling to the right, here's the next one, 5%. And you could change it to whatever you want. You can see the curve go up or down. But I wanted it to go up gradually, so we're just going up a little bit for each position of the throttle. Throttle goes up a little higher, I wanted a 10% input. Throttle goes up a little higher, 15%. Throttle goes up a little higher, 20%. Could have put it up more, could have put it up to 25%. Get a little kind of an exponential there. Maybe I'll leave it there where we'll try it. Enter. I entered too long. Sorry about that. Everything got cleared. Oh my God, look what I did. Let's go up to 25%. We got to reset the whole thing now. 25. First one is 0. Second one, now you get to see the whole thing. 5. Next point, 10. See, don't do a long press, so learn my lesson. Next one, going to go up to 15. All good. Going to return just to get out of it so I don't mess it up again. Now, let's go back. And make sure that I didn't mess it up. So if I put, I'm looking at the input. If I put the throttle up, I'm on the wrong channel. Elevator. If I put the throttle up, will the elevator still go down? Yes, it does. Woo, that was a close one. Okay, so that's how to mix on the jumper TX16S, and it also shows you a little bit about what these three critical parts are, and also how the curves work and how you can make a custom curve and make it do anything you want. I'll show you one more thing. When you go back on this one, we'll edit it. The weight here is 50%. If it's going in the wrong direction, you don't like it doesn't do what you expected, you can change the weight and go negative. You can make it go in the opposite direction. I'm going to put it back to where it was in the positive direction. You can make the curve go backwards. You can set the points all going down or all going up. And there it is. And here's my motor timer going. That changes when you put the throttle up. That's a percentage one. You'll see that when you set timers. We'll do that in a different video. You put the throttle down, the timer stops, because that's a timer that's just going to tell me how long my motor is running for. This is a timer just to tell me how long I've been up in the air, so I can brag and see how long I kept my glider up. Good luck with the Jumper TX16S. It's a steep learning curve, but it's a very, very interesting radio. Something that really we haven't seen before. It's a computer running on software, OpenTx, and it just happens to have a lot of knobs and buttons. Powering off.